Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And we're going to have such a great discussion today because we're going to be talking about how to really be successful, right? But what does it take to be successful? And what are the challenges? So please join me in welcoming Andy Neary to our program today. Welcome, Andy. How are you?
I'm doing good, Deb. I'm excited for this conversation. Thank you for having me.
Cool. I love it. Well, let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we'll jump into this. So Andy Neary is a former professional baseball player, a two-time Ironman finisher. He is a business coach and founder of Complete Game Consulting. Combining the skills and talents he used to compete in professional baseball and in Ironman, Andy is on a mission to help business and insurance professionals succeed in their careers and in life. He helps insurance professionals target the right audiences at the right time. His programs help people cultivate the off-field habits, mindset, and rituals that lead to all-star performances. So again, Andy, welcome.
Yes, let's dive in.
Cool. Well, I always like to find out how my guests got to where they are today. So how did you get from baseball to business coaching and all of those parts in between?
Yeah, so played a couple years in the Milwaukee Brewers organization in the early 2000s. And when I realized pro baseball wasn't going to be in my future, or better said, pro baseball told me I'm not going to be in its future, I found myself early 20s, figuring out what the rest of my life is going to look like. And I did what everybody else does. I decided to get into insurance, and, nobody really gets into insurance by design. Somebody told me I could make a lot of money doing it. So I jumped in.
It is something where a lot of athletes get into.
Yeah. A lot of sales, right? It's definitely sales. And so, I spent the last 22 years in the insurance industry in different ways, but really, Deb, where my career changed. It was in 2014. Amy and I made the decision to move to Colorado. And I found myself, I'd been in the industry for 13 years at that point. I found myself in a new market where nobody knew me.
Right.
And I went to work for an insurance agency that really had not leveraged marketing all that much in the past. So I quickly realized I had a problem. And that was, how am I going to grow a book of business in a market where nobody knows me? And so I had a choice to make. It's 2014. I said I could do it the way I was taught, which is to cold call, go pound the pavement, all the traditional ways of getting out there. Yeah. Or I could try something different. And at that point, what I did is I went and looked at what other industries are doing when it comes to marketing. And that's when I discovered social media marketing. I discovered public speaking, and podcasting was kind of still in its early stages. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to build a personal brand. And at that time in the industry, people were like, what are you doing? Nobody does that. And this, what do
you mean personal brand?
Yeah, just go pick up the phone. Shut up. And I said, no, I'm going to get a lot of people to know who I am. I'm going to create a marketing plan so I get a lot of people to know who I am quick. And that's when I leaned into using LinkedIn, started public speaking, held a lot of webinars, eventually started a podcast. And before you know it, I built a nice book of business. And I realized, there's some power in this. What made that work? Well, I got a lot of people to know me. And fast forward that to today, business is about who knows you as much as it's about who you know.
Right. If not more.
And a few years later, I had some peers reach out and say, hey, man, can you teach me what you did? And lo and behold, I realized there was a big opportunity, which was the insurance industry has a problem with marketing and communication. People don't know how to sell themselves.
Right.
And lo and behold, what started as a side hustle in January 21 became my full hustle, Complete Game Consulting. Gave up my book of business in January of 2021 and the business was born, and we've
Mhm.
been growing ever since, and it's been fun. We help
Mhm.
people put the right message in front of the right people so they get the right attention.
I love it. And I think it's probably especially important with someone like a former athlete, and even at, especially at the pro level, because that was what you were known for. And then poof, you are not. As we are recording this, the Olympics ended yesterday. And you always wonder what happens with a lot of them. My favorite of the whole Olympics is Mr. Pommel Horse guy, right?
Yes.
Who is, he already has his career. He is an engineer. Now will he be forever Mr. Pommel Horse guy? Probably no, because people are like, the what's it? But he'll play on that for a while. But for many athletes, they are that role. Doesn't matter, what sport it is. And then really they're not. And in many cases it does. It can end really with overnight, right? With an injury. But for all of us, we don't always know what our personal brand is. So walk us through that process of actually figuring out, how do we find out what our personal brand is?
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. The athletes, I just gave a talk. So we moved back since 2014. We've now moved back to Wisconsin, and we live in my hometown, which has changed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I gave a talk at the high school to high
Mm-hmm.
school athletes a month ago
Mm-hmm.
at my former alma mater.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the whole message, was your identity as an athlete,
Right.
because
Mm-hmm.
someday that sport's going to come to an end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
You are
that
not going to
sport,
be the high school quarterback forever.
correct. But that can't define who you
Mm-hmm.
are. And I think
Mm-hmm.
to your point about Olympic athletes, that's why they struggle. You hear about these Olympic
Right.
athletes that come out of the
Mm-hmm.
Olympics and depression,
Mm-hmm.
all these things, because
Right.
it was who
Mm-hmm.
they are. And then
Mm-hmm.
without it, they don't
Mm-hmm.
know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So personal brand. When we work with somebody on building a personal brand, the first thing you've got to ask yourself is, how do you want the market to talk about you?
Okay.
How do you want the market to look at you?
Mm-hmm.
And the way we do that with our clients is we say, all right, if I went and interviewed your best clients you have today, what would they say?
Mm-hmm.
What would you want
Mm-hmm.
them saying about you? And then we spin it, because when people start answering that, they keep everything at a professional level. And I say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what if I said, now I want to go interview all your family and friends?
Mm.
What would they say about you?
Mm-hmm.
How would you want them talking about
Mm-hmm.
you? And that's where the brand starts, because you've noticed I've said the word want twice now.
Mm-hmm.
When you're building a brand, it's not what do you think, it's what do you want people
Mm-hmm.
saying about it.
Right.
So let's list out the words, the phrases you want people using.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point, those words and phrases are your judge and jury. You
Mm-hmm.
need to show up as that person every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the first place to start with brand. Now, when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to putting the brand out there, my belief is, especially from a business standpoint, if you're going to use it to grow your business, there's a
Mm-hmm.
couple questions you have to be able to answer clearly. Number one,
Mm-hmm.
what makes you unique?
Mm-hmm.
And what I don't want to hear is, I'm a trusted advisor, I give the
Right.
best service. No, no,
Yes.
no, no, no.
I'm good at customer support.
Correct. That's
Mhm.
table stakes.
Mm-hmm.
What makes your story unique?
Mm-hmm.
This is where I landed as an advisor in Colorado, Deb.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you know what? I bet there's not a lot of former pro baseball players selling health insurance in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be part of my brand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Even though you hadn't been a Colorado Rocky, you still.
Now, irony, funny story. 2 or 3 years after I moved to Colorado, a former Rocky did start selling health insurance in Colorado. So I'm like, that doesn't make me unique anymore.
Mhm.
Anyways, but the thing that your competition can't take from you
Mhm.
is your story.
Right.
So what is it about your story that
Mhm.
makes you unique?
Mhm.
Everybody has a unique story.
Mhm.
So we start there, go into, okay, professionally, what do you want to be known for?
Mhm.
So when people think of it, they think
Mhm.
of you.
Right.
And I think this is where people go wrong, Deb, with brands. I
Mhm.
see it in the insurance industry.
Mhm.
If I said, what is the one thing you want to become known for?
Mhm.
People have a hard time because they want to be known for a lot of things. I
Right.
said, oh, great. But I'm going to force you to become known for one.
Mm-hmm.
Because the only way you can break through and build brand awareness is to
Mhm.
become known for one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Great example I use is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Mm-hmm.
We know him as a movie star,
Mhm.
former governor. He's probably an entrepreneur now, owns dozens of businesses. But
Mhm.
what did he do to break through? He was a bodybuilder.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Become known for one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to building brand, especially in the world of business, it's what do you want people saying about you? What makes you unique? What do you want to become known for? We get those. We get clarity there. You can start building brand.
What's your one
My
thing?
one thing is helping people get the right attention from the right prospects.
Very cool.
When it comes to getting attention in the insurance industry, how do I get attention from my prospects? We want people thinking in a complete game consulting.
Right. And what I love, and I have my own marketing firm. And so what I love is several things about that. Right audiences, right time, right? Because that's one of the tricky things about all of this. If we're bombarding people with the wrong message, first of all, if we're bombarding the wrong people, that's just a total waste. But so many people are like, well, I have to talk to everybody. No. You figured out your target market are insurance people. That's a perfect niche. You understand it. Can you help others? Sure. Do you help others? Yes. But you have your niche. And that is one of the hardest things, I think, for people to do.
100%. I couldn't agree more, especially coming from the insurance industry. There's a belief you can help everybody. Whether that's true or not, you don't want to help everybody. You have to have a niche. Who are you best positioned to serve? And there my viewpoint is, there's two ways to qualify a prospect. We got demographics and we got psychographics. And to use an athlete analogy, demographics is an athlete's height, weight, and speed. It's a lot of the stuff you can't teach.
They're givens.
The psychographics is, how's that athlete going to perform in the fourth quarter when the game's on the line? This is where I think college athletics go wrong in recruiting. They recruit the height, weight, and the speed, and they go, oh, wait, this kid melts in the fourth quarter.
Oh, no.
But when you think about that from a prospecting standpoint in business, the riches are in the psychographic niches because it's who are your prospects between the ears? What do they believe? What do they stand for? How do they make decisions? What do they think about what you sell? These are the people who let you do your best work. But why not build a marketing message to go attract the people who are going to let you do your best work?
Right.
And that's where the psychographics come in.
Right. But so many people, they do think, oh, I have to sell to everybody. It's the old shotgun after a fly type of thing. You might hit that fly, but you're going to have wasted so much more. Are you limiting? Well, yes. But if they were never going to buy from you to start with, then why would you want to waste your time?
Yeah. We teach people how to sell with exclusivity. And what I mean by that is, I come from an industry where a good year doesn't mean you have to have 100 sales, depending on what you're selling. For a lot of our producers, they have 10 sales. They have an amazing year. So why not go tell the market, you're looking to work with 10 people this year, and you're going to see if they're going to be one of the 10. I learned this strategy from a peer of mine, and every year he sold out. He hit his quota because he would go out and say, I got 12 gold coins to give this year. My goal this year is to figure out who's getting the 12. When you sell from that place, one, you're selling with confidence, which the prospect feels.
Right.
But to your point, it's saying not everybody is a fit for what we do, and that's the way we want it. We're just seeing who are going to be the 8, the 10, the 20 who are going to be a fit. It'll change your business when you apply that attitude.
Oh, yeah. It's like somebody selling, say, a Mercedes Benz. They're not going to try and sell it to the person who's currently driving a Toyota. And now, the person with the Toyota might have saved their pennies and they might be able to buy a Benz, right? But for the most part, there's no point in wasting their time. They might give them a test drive, just, humor them, but they're really not going to waste that time, because the most important thing is they absolutely have to be ready when the right people come along. And, how many times do we see that you're spending your time off with the maybes and you miss the yeses?
You just brought up a really good point nobody wants to talk about, and that is maybe suck.
I know.
Our number one job in marketing and sales is to get people to make a clear decision. And as much as we hate hearing no's, at least they're clear.
Right. Yeah.
No's allow you to move on. Where people get stuck is their pipelines are filled with maybes.
Well, I'll think about it. I got to ask my husband. Not right now.
100%. Yeah, it's something I've had to learn. It's
Mhm.
something I teach my own sales
Mhm.
reps now, and we're teaching our clients is
Mhm.
when you hop on a call with a prospect,
Mhm.
one of the first things you should tell them is my goal today is to help you make a clear decision. Even if
Yes.
it's a no,
Yeah.
I'm here
Then
to
we
help you make a
wish you
clear decision.
well. Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think the issue is we take no's personal.
Yeah.
And I remember years ago, we were talking before the thing. You lived in Fort Collins, I went to CSU. And I had an English professor there who we wrote a paper, got it back, and this was back when they still graded things right by hand. And every person in the class, I don't know how many red pens he used up, but he bled all over everything. And of course, we were like, oh. And he said, these are words. They are not your babies. And when we got over that, then we could think, okay, what are we going to do? And I think that's the thing is we think, oh my God, everybody has to want to buy from me because it's the one most wonderful thing in the world. No, not everybody thinks it's the most wonderful thing in the world, and that's perfectly fine.
You bring it back right to the athlete and the identity
Mm-hmm.
crisis.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I struggled with as an athlete is letting my success dictate my self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
So as a pitcher
Mm-hmm.
in sports, the scoreboard tells you if you're doing
Right.
well or
Yeah.
not,
You
right?
won, you lost.
And when you're playing in pro baseball,
Mm-hmm.
you are literally getting judged by your stats.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to let that dictate your
Mm-hmm.
own value of
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And
Right.
I struggle with that even
Mm-hmm.
early in my business. I still struggle
Mm-hmm.
with time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Like if my business is going well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm great. If
Mm-hmm.
business isn't great, I suck, right? It's
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And to your point in sales, you have to learn how to let that go.
Mm-hmm.
If every no is going to be devastating
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to have a negative impact on
Mm-hmm.
your self-worth,
Mm-hmm.
it is going to be a long road to
Right.
success in sales for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you should learn from those no's,
Mhm.
but then let them go.
Yep. It's not an indication of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you found somebody
Right.
who isn't interested in what you
Mm-hmm.
have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And maybe they will be later. Who knows? But then and so that's where you do things like you have them on an e-newsletter,
Mm-hmm.
you connect with them on LinkedIn, all those various things. So they're still getting the trickle message, but you're not spending any more time on them.
That's one of the biggest things we teach producers right there.
Mm-hmm.
What you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
is for the people, when you're out selling, you got to remember most people, I'd say probably 80 to 90%
Mm-hmm.
are not ready to buy from you right now.
Right.
That's fact.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Approach your sales that way.
Mm-hmm.
But when they give you the cool, sounds
Mm-hmm.
interesting, but we're not ready right now.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do between now and the time they're ready to make sure they never forget who you are?
Mm-hmm.
And the
Right.
problem with that is most producers who pick up the phone today,
Mm-hmm.
when they get the maybe, call us in 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
they don't do anything for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And they call them back. That call's as cold as it was 6 months ago. And they
Mm-hmm.
go, who are you again?
Right. Mm-hmm.
My question is, what are you doing from a email standpoint, like a
Mm-hmm.
newsletter? What are you doing
Mm-hmm.
from a LinkedIn content
Mm-hmm.
standpoint and other forms of content to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
prospect never forgets who you are?
Right.
And by the time you call them back, they go, oh, heck yeah, we're ready to
Mm-hmm.
have a
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. Or somewhere in there, excuse me, they might have said, you need to talk to this guy, Andy.
Yep.
And I think but so many times when we hear the no and we're crushed, we're like, I'm never talking to him again. Well, unless it was no, you suck, then you can probably at least keep it. And, on social, on e-newsletters, all of those things, they can always unsubscribe. And again, that's not the end of the world. Do I look to see who unsubscribes? Yes. And then I go, huh. Right. It was just they didn't want my stuff at that point in time.
Let me
And
give you
that's fine.
let me give you a real life example. I got a text message from a client two weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Said, Andy, check this out. He got a call 2 weeks ago from a prospect. Now, this
Mm-hmm.
is a prospect he met with over a year ago.
Wow.
And they said, Chris, just so you know, we're happy to meet.
Mm-hmm.
We're really happy though with our current advisor. We have no
Mm-hmm.
intention of leaving, but
Mm-hmm.
we'll meet. So we
Mm-hmm.
did. He walked out of the meeting going, yeah, they're not interested.
Yeah.
So
They gave
never
you the
followed
polite
back.
meeting. Mm-hmm.
He never followed back,
Mm-hmm.
but he was connected to him on LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
and had him in his email
Mm-hmm.
newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks ago, a year later, he gets a phone call from this
Mm-hmm.
prospect. Says, hey,
Mm-hmm.
Chris, don't know if you remember me. We talked
Mm-hmm.
a year ago. Can you would you mind meeting with us again? The next day, Chris goes out, sits down in the conference room, and he's excited because he didn't think this prospect would ever get back in touch. So he goes up to the whiteboard in the conference room to start showing him what he could do for him. Prospect said, Chris, sit down. You don't need to show us anything.
Yeah, we know.
We've been reading your emails. We've been seeing your videos on LinkedIn for a year. We're sold. We're bought in. We brought you in to talk about next steps. That was a $250,000 revenue account.
Wow.
But it goes to what you just said. If you go at it with the attitude, most people aren't ready to buy from you yet, but you're going to let all your content do the talking in the meantime.
Right.
Magical things will happen.
Right. And the thing is, people get all caught up in their content. Oh, I can't give them this stuff for free. You're not telling them everything, but you are telling them enough so that they know you know what you're talking about. And if you're in this, I can't give away anything, then that's a totally different problem.
I agree. Prospects expect more value today than they ever have. We have a phrase here we live by: give away the farm, reap the harvest. You got to teach them how to do it as if they can do it themselves, and they will eventually hire you. I learned a very important lesson from one of my mentors when he said, Andy, people come for the information, they pay for the application. Give them the good information, they will still hire you. They still need to hire somebody to do it, and they're going to hire you.
Right. Well, and just because we can read it doesn't mean we want to do it. I can read about how to do my taxes. I have no desire to do my taxes. But reading somebody's email newsletter, I'm going to go, yeah, they know what they're talking about. And so that's the thing, is you give them that information so that then they go, yeah, you do know what you're talking about.
Yeah. We have leaned in on this really hard lately. I'm a big believer in tactical information right now, which is give your prospects quick wins. Give them content they can literally do something about right away. Even if it's going back to their current advisor. Right. Give them something they can leverage right away, and they will love you for it. See, and I tell people, how do you know when that moment's arriving? It's when you're doing a video or you're writing an email and you're right at that point when you're about to share the good stuff. What most people do is they'll go, and that's why you should call us.
Yes.
No, just give it away.
Right.
And that to me is important. We have a social media sales academy we run, teaching people how to use LinkedIn. I remember I was on a call with a guy who was looking at it a couple months ago, and he said, Andy, you put out so much free content. Couldn't I just watch your free content and do it myself? I said, yes, you could. Yeah. But are you going
to? Do you want to?
He still signed up.
Right. Yeah. And is that a lot of work? Yes. But again, by the time they talk to you, they're at the yes point.
Yes.
Not,
We, in any sales environment, there is what is known as a sales cycle, right? Some are short, some are long. In the insurance industry, especially in the benefits commercial space, it's long sales cycles. Benefits could be a 2 or 3 year sales cycle.
Right.
Well, if the only time you get a chance to influence that prospect is when you're meeting with them, it's going to take a while. But if you're using content, that content is shrinking that sales cycle with while you sleep.
Right.
And then when you do interact, they're already bought in, to your point.
Right.
There's not a better feeling to walk into a prospect who already feels like they know you and they're already valuing what you've delivered to them. You want to have a leg up on the competition. That's how you do it.
Right. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit more about LinkedIn, because that's the great way to have been researching them, and finding out a little bit about them before you have those meetings. Yeah. There's a little stalky part to it. Right. But, for one thing, if somebody puts it out there, well, then they shouldn't be surprised if you read it. But that's where I like LinkedIn, definitely for the business, as opposed to, Facebook, because, or Instagram or any of those. But, I remember one time I had a call with somebody, and, and it actually was a baseball thing. I noticed in his profile, he said, Colorado Rockies fan. In his LinkedIn profile. Was that professional? No, but he put it in there because it was part of who he was. So first meeting, I take him, this cost me $5. a Colorado Rockies mug with chocolate in it. He remembered that forever. And now I told him, I saw on your LinkedIn profile that you like the Rockies. So that way he doesn't, didn't really think that I was stalking him. But, that's where we find out where they went to school, other places they were, other people they know. I mean, let's be honest, that's why LinkedIn puts that information out there. But yeah, you can find out things, and and that is part of being a good salesperson. You're looking, when you're meeting with somebody, maybe they've got a picture of their child playing soccer. Well, then you ask about it. Then the next time you talk to them, how's soccer going? What about, oh my gosh, did you just watch the Olympics where the women won? All of those various things. And that's the cool thing about social, is it now gives us a lot of that information.
Not only can you research and get a lot of good intel on prospects, because prospects actually want personalization these days. It's getting harder and harder to hit prospects with these cold blasts of emails. They want personalization. But to flip that script, it's also how you can get a lot of people to know you before you meet them. Yep. I tell people all the time, when I'm creating content, there's two types of content I'm going to focus on. Personal stories and thought leadership.
Right.
Personal stories serve a very important purpose. I'm going to let you get to know me a little bit, because if you're a prospect watching my content, you and I might have the same hobbies. Maybe we have a child with similar conditions or health issues, or similar past events that have occurred. We went to the same college, whatever it might be. That content is what lets that prospect say, kind of like him. And there's nothing else that can do that today.
Right.
That's where you walk into rooms with prospects who already like you. Is when you let people get to know you in your content.
Right. And we're not saying TMI, folks. This is, just kind of rein it back. There's always that right before you hit send or post. Okay, if you go then you shouldn't be doing
you're covering your eyes.
Right?
You're like, okay, here we go.
But it's funny because we're not getting ready to. We are in a very contentious political time period. And I've had people ask me, should I put that in there? Well, I've told them, you have to be authentic. If that is really, really, really important to you, but understand that whichever side you're saying, you just alienated 50% for the most part. But it was really funny. I had somebody one time, I was working with him on his LinkedIn profile, and he was going for managerial type of positions, right? Where he was going to have to stand up and give presentations and things like that. Didn't have a lot of experience doing that. So I was talking, well, it turns out he was a lay leader at his church. Nice, standard, run-of-the-mill church, nothing that, and I said, put that in there. Don't go into detail, just put it in there. And he kind of looked a little startled. And I said, it shows people that you can get up in front of people and speak. And, and I said, you're not, don't put a video in there. Don't, do any of that, but just, and he, a couple weeks later calls, he's got the job. And he said, they specifically said, we knew you could speak in front of people because you did that. It also meant he probably knew budgeting, all sorts of things. And so, you kind of think about those things. That's why LinkedIn really wants you to put your volunteer stuff in, because so many of the things that we do or learn come from volunteering.
Yeah, you brought up, we could probably have an whole podcast.
We could.
What you talk about in content. I've always personally, I've just been of the mindset I'm not going to ever say anything politically or religiously.
I'm never going to post political.
What I loved about his post, he wasn't expressing his religious beliefs. He was just saying, I'm a lay person at this church. But I do warn people who do want to use religion or politics in their content. Just know it's going to be polarizing.
Yep.
And when you throw the grenade in the house, don't be surprised when it explodes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like there are going to be backlashes from that content. So if you're willing to put it out there, awesome.
Right.
Don't get upset then when you get the poor feedback.
Right. Yeah. I was talking with a delightful young woman just last week who was she was a consultant for political campaigns. That was her paid job, things like that. So it made sense that she put it in there, and it was because she actually did list which party. She could have gone a little bit more generic, But, but again, she said, I know that it's going to do it. Now, I also know that, I might put in there that I am a University of Colorado grad, and somebody from, say, Kansas or Nebraska is going to go, ew, okay, well, then I might not want to work with them anyway.
And but that's a funny point you bring up, because I'm like, even if it was from a rival school, I still don't believe there'd be enough vitriol that somebody be like,
and there's
I'm not
always
working
some other
with you.
team you can trash, right?
But to your point, though, sports is one thing, but when you want to go down the religious or political path, again, do not be upset about the ramifications.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Just know that could happen. Now, I live in Georgia. I live in the Bible Belt. You're certainly going to see more even in people's LinkedIn profiles. That's perfectly fine. I remember when we first moved here, I went to my first big networking thing. And it was great. Everybody made me feel welcome. I had made a lot of contacts before I ever moved on LinkedIn, because we knew we were moving, all sorts of stuff. They took me to this great event. I won the door prize. I'm so excited. It was a Bible, and it was like, and my first thought was to tell them thanks, but I have one. I, of course, thanked him profusely, and but it was like, oh yeah, okay. But I mean, that was what was important. And I also learned, anytime I'm out eating, even for a business thing, food comes, pause, because they very likely are going to say grace. That's just, doing business in the South. Not going to happen in Colorado, right? And probably not in Wisconsin either. But it's just knowing, kind of reading your audience, right?
You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, no matter what you decide to post or say, just know your audience, right? It comes back to who is your ideal prospect, right? Know their audience,
right?
Whatever you're about to post, you better know who's going to receive it on the other end, and don't be surprised when it's a reaction you expected, but now are upset it's happening. You know your audience.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I very well might post that University of Colorado has the best mascot. Buffalo, right? A live buffalo. But the people down here who have UGA for the bulldog mascot are going to quibble with me. And that's perfectly fine, right? But it's also, as you said, getting to know people. Because then we almost always have the discussion of, remember when they brought Ralphie down here? Or, oh my gosh, do you remember when Bevo tried to take UGA? And so, yeah, it just kind of comes back to that. But, it's winning friends and influencing them, right? And just knowing that you could say something and sometimes it's a perfectly innocent thing, and it's taken the wrong way.
Well, I think the big picture today with sales and marketing and sales, Deb, is historically we viewed prospects as a list of people to sell.
Right. And
when
that's all they are.
Today it's a community to bring value to. Right. And if you just approach your sales more with that approach, that I'm going to build a community and I'm going to deliver a ton of value to it, you not only will have clients out of that down the road, you're going to have raving fans. And when we teach LinkedIn, I teach a really simple concept. I say, listen, go look at the number of connections you have, whether it's 500, 5,000 or 10,000, 50,000. I don't care. That's your community, and you're the mayor of the community. And as mayor, you have two jobs. You got to go get more of the right residents to move in.
Right.
And you've got to make the ones that who live there feel good they do. How do you do that? Make good connections, deliver good content.
Right. Yeah. And it's just that simple. And it comes back to almost the golden rule, right? Whether you're religious or not, you want to treat people like you want to be treated.
100%. 100%. And that's where social media platforms today, I still think, get a bad rap, because there's a lot of toxicity on them, and I understand. Right. But if done well, social media platforms like LinkedIn can literally change your career.
Right.
We've seen what it's done for clients of ours that are now writing the biggest cases they've ever written. They're walking into rooms with prospects, having all the credibility established, and never met these people. It's unbelievable what can happen if you're willing to show up, you're willing to be your authentic self, your brand,
right,
and you're willing to over deliver and give away the good stuff. When you do all those, good things happen.
Right. And it is about being authentic. And back to the personal brand. you bring in your baseball history, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your
Mm-hmm.
logo, I noticed, is a home plate. Now, not a lot of people might catch that, but I did. But yeah, there's things that you can put in there that just kind of like, oh, well, that's cute, right? Did it mean anything? No, but I thought, well, that's kind of cute because that is part of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the problem comes in when we try to not be that.
Yep. There's a lot of people in sales, regardless of the industry, that are willing to be whoever they need to be to win the business. And I don't think that's a way to grow a
Right.
business. I think at the end of the day, you just got to be you, whether that means they like you or not. The
Right.
people who don't like it, they were never going to hire you anyways. And
No.
if they did, it's not going to be a good fit 6 months down.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're having to go into it being someone else, ew.
Yeah. It just show up as it to me. We try to do this with new producers, especially who are new to the industry. It's like, number one thing I can tell you as a new producer is number one, be yourself. Two, just sell with that confidence that if you believe in what you sell and you believe it can actually help people and help their business, you have an obligation to tell as many people as you can.
Yeah. I remember I was at a mastermind group, and our mastermind groups, typical the way it was, has people in there who we had an insurance salesman, and he started to give his little pitch and he stopped and he said, I got to tell you, he said, we had a call yesterday from somebody whose husband died and they didn't have life insurance. Now we believed it. That was the big thing. We knew that it was not a line. He was not, because, we just knew him. That was, but yeah, and we all were like, okay, we need to make that phone call. Right. But he allowed himself to show that pain. And I think that's the thing, people are like, I don't know about that either, and because we have our box and we don't want to get out of our box.
Well, and I think one of the best tips I can give to people who are trying to build a brand, especially an online brand where you're trying to establish some kind of rapport with your prospects, is vulnerability matters. I learned this the hard way and the good way. It's public speaking. I've been speaking for about 8 years now. And I remember when I would stand on stage, I'd share all these stories about playing pro baseball and overcoming the odds of being an undersized pitcher, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the talk, I'd be like, I don't have a lot of people coming up to me like telling me how great it was. I'm like, I thought that talk was awesome.
Right.
Well, then one day, 2018, I decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go up on stage. It was a room full of human resource professionals. And I'm going to talk about, use my pro baseball career to set the theme of the story, but I'm going to talk about why I failed in pro baseball. I'm going to talk about the fear of judgment, the fear of comparison, the fear of failure. At the end of that talk, that was the first time I had somebody come up to me and hug me. And I realized important thing. You want to build a brand, people resonate, be vulnerable. Because you know what? I knew not everybody in that room, or almost nobody, had ever played pro baseball, but everybody had failed.
Right.
And the more your brand can have people say, you know what? She is just like me, the better it's going to be.
I love it. Well, oh my gosh, Andy, this has been great. It's been a little bit abbreviated because we gabbed too much before we started. But that just means we have to have you on again because we're just scratching the surface with all of this. But tell us how people find you and what are the services that you provide?
Yeah. Number one, connect with me on LinkedIn, Andy Neary, Complete Game Consulting. Come check us out at completegameconsulting.com. We also have a free training on how to use LinkedIn. I can share the link with you, Deb. So you want to promote that on your show notes, you can. But what we do is we help producers. We work with the insurance industry primarily, but we help agencies and producers put the right message in front of the right people. We help them take reach and relevancy and turn it into revenue.
Perfect.
The truth is, not enough people know you exist. We're going to get your audit. We're going to get your message out far, fast, and wide. So a lot of people who know who you are, so you can build that credibility you need to win.
Perfect. I love it. Well, we will definitely get that link and put it in the show notes. We will have you on again. And I look forward to that. But until then, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
Yeah, I would just say, if you're listening in and you are in the world of marketing and or sales, I'll wrap by saying what I said about 10 minutes ago. biggest lesson I had to learn, especially when growing my own business, was if I don't tell people I can help them, my business isn't going to grow. And I'm here to tell you, if you believe in what you sell, you believe what you sell can actually help people possibly change their life, you have an obligation to tell as many people as you can. You're not being salesy. You're not being pushy in any way. You just believe in what you sell. And by not telling them, you are negating them the opportunity to get the help they need.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm Deb Creer. We've been having so much fun chatting. I've been talking with Andy Neary. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.